They say betrayal is a kind of poison. It creeps slowly through the veins of trust and turns love to ashes. When Elsa Greenwood discovered her husband Andrew's affair, her world teetered on the edge of ruin. As if the betrayal wasn't enough, Andrew did the unthinkable. He let his mistress choose their unborn child's name. That single decision fanned the flames of Elsa's despair into scorching fury. On the brink of labor, this pregnant wife altered her will, setting off a chain of shocking twists. This is a story of shattered vows, hidden motives, and the desperate fight for control. No matter the cost, Elsa Greenwood could still remember the day she said, "I do" to Andrew Greenwood beneath the old willow tree in her grandmother's backyard. She had worn a lace gown that caught the sunlight like a promise of forever, and Andrew had stood with tears in his eyes, ready to protect her from every storm life might throw their way. Back then, he was a kind man, gentle, always searching for ways to make her life easier. They had whispered promises under that willow, sealing them with a tender kiss. If anyone asked her about her marriage, Elsa would light up like a 1,000-watt bulb. But as the years passed, cracks began to show in their happily ever after. Work demanded more of Andrew's time, especially after he took a senior position at Harwell Pharmaceuticals. He traveled frequently, so often that Elsa could hardly remember the last weekend he spent at home. He insisted it was all for their future to secure a life free of financial worries. She tried to believe him. The first sign that something was wrong came from a simple lipstick stain on Andrew's collar. It was a faint smudge, easily overlooked, but the color was bright pink, nothing Elsa would ever wear. She confronted him about it, and he laughed it off. "A co-worker gave me a hug," he explained with a dismissive wave. "It's nothing, Elle." She wanted to believe him. Love can make a person as trusting as a child, yet the uneasy knot in her stomach refused to disappear. Every time Andrew left for a business trip, Elsa felt a silent dread. Had her husband, her best friend, grown into a stranger? One crisp autumn afternoon, Elsa decided to surprise Andrew with a weekend trip to Lake Tahoe. She wanted to reignite the spark in their marriage, which had been reduced to flickers of routine. As she rummaged through Andrew's desk drawers, searching for his travel wallet, her hands brushed across a folded piece of paper. The words caught her eye. "Reservation for Andrew Greenwood and Clarissa Henderson. Presidential Suite." Her heart pounded. Clarissa Henderson. The name sounded vaguely familiar, perhaps someone from Andrew's office. Yet Elsa had never heard Andrew mention a Clarissa, and certainly not in the context of a romantic getaway. She looked at the date. It was from a month ago, the same time Andrew had claimed to be at a medical conference in San Diego. Elsa's hands trembled. She wanted to tear the paper to bits, but a surge of adrenaline made her methodical. She folded it again, placed it back into the drawer exactly how she found it, and stepped away as if the desk were on fire. Outside, the wind rattled the window frame, a cruel echo of the storm brewing inside her chest. That night, when Andrew came home exhausted from work, Elsa was waiting. She had tried to calm herself, rehearsed 1,000,000 times how she would approach him. "Andrew," she began softly, "can we talk?" Without warning, tears welled up. He walked over, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder, the touch she once found so reassuring. "What's going on, Elle?" he asked carefully. She pulled back, looking him square in the face. "Who is Clarissa Henderson?" Her voice shook. She forced herself to keep eye contact, searching for any flicker of honesty or a sign of immediate regret. Andrew's face went pale. His Adam's apple bobbed in his throat. "She's Someone from work, that's all. He tried to summon his usual cool composure, but the tremble in his voice betrayed him. Elsa swallowed. Is she the reason you haven't wanted to touch me for months? The reason you keep traveling? Why I found a hotel reservation for the two of you in a presidential suite? She spat the words out quickly, as if they tasted bitter. He stammered. Look, it's just a mistake. It was a business function and Clarissa managed it. Maybe the reservation was labeled incorrectly. But Elsa sensed the half-lies weaving through his words. She pressed further. Andrew's eyes flicked from side to side as though searching for an escape. Then at last the tension snapped. Fine, he blurted. I don't love her, Elle. You have to believe me. It was an impulse. A fling. It was never supposed to turn into this. Elsa's knees buckled, and she caught herself on the couch. A fling. It felt like her heart was physically tearing in two. Andrew tried to comfort her, but she brushed him off. Get out, she whispered. It was only 2 words, but they carried the force of a collapsing universe. He stood there, shame twisting his features. In the hush of that dreadful moment, Elsa's world broke open in a way she never thought possible. Life has a relentless way of testing a person's breaking point. The very next morning, Elsa woke up to an unusual wave of nausea. She had missed her period, but chalked it up to stress. Deep down, she had always wanted a baby with Andrew, someone to bring fresh hope into their marriage. Yet after the fiasco the night before, her mind was in turmoil. Still, an intuition tugged at her. She had a home pregnancy test in the bathroom cabinet. With trembling hands, she took the test. Minutes later, the small screen displayed a single word. Pregnant. Elsa collapsed onto the cold bathroom tiles, sobbing. Joy and despair slammed into her simultaneously. A pregnancy should be a celebration. But how could she welcome a child when her marriage lay in ruins? She mustered up the courage to call her close friend, Linda Cortez, a woman she had known since kindergarten. Linda listened quietly, then told Elsa to see a doctor immediately. That afternoon, Elsa found herself in Dr. Harriet Liu's office. As Dr. Liu conducted the ultrasound, Elsa watched the fuzzy, delicate shape of a tiny life forming. A heartbeat strong and steady reverberated through her eardrums, almost overshadowing her own frantic pulse. Tears streamed down her face. Her child had done nothing wrong. This was a chance at love, an innocent beginning, but it was overshadowed by Andrew's betrayal. Dr. Liu squeezed Elsa's shoulder gently. Babies can be healing, she offered, in ways you'd never expect. Elsa nodded, not trusting her voice. Once the visit ended, she stepped out into the corridor, tears blurring her vision. She dialed Andrew's number. He deserved to know. As soon as he picked up, she uttered the words that changed everything. I'm pregnant. When Andrew heard the news, shock and excitement flickered across his face. He arrived home that evening, carrying a bouquet of Elsa's favorite flowers, calla lilies. It was a gesture that tugged painfully at her heart. She was still furious, still devastated, but the idea of giving the baby a complete family weighed heavily on her mind. Elsa Andrew said quietly, I am so sorry. You have to believe me when I say I never meant to hurt you. Clarissa was a mistake. Elsa glared at him. A mistake that went on for months. A mistake you meticulously planned hotels for. He looked stricken. I know I've messed up, but please, I want to be a father to our child. For several moments, neither spoke. Then Elsa let out a slow breath, shoulders sagging as though carrying a boulder. "I don't know if I can forgive you," she admitted. "But we have a baby to think about now. I need time." Andrew nodded watery hope in his eyes. Over the next few weeks, he tried to prove he was serious about repairing their marriage. He took Elsa to her prenatal appointments, consulted with Dr. Harriet Liu about safe exercise regimens, even offered to attend therapy. They went to a few sessions together, each one an emotional roller coaster that ended in tears more often than resolution. In quiet moments, Elsa caught glimpses of the man she once loved. The one who made silly faces at dinner, who jumped out from behind doors just to hear her laugh. Sometimes her mind teased her. Maybe we can work this out? She wanted to believe that love could triumph, but doubts lingered. Late one night, she checked Andrew's phone as he slept, a wave of guilt washing over her. There in his messaging app was a text from Clarissa Henderson. "Are you going to tell her you love me?" No responses. But the implication was chilling. Andrew was still in contact with Clarissa. That seed of doubt rooted itself firmly in Elsa's psyche. Even the joy of pregnancy wasn't enough to extinguish the burning sense of betrayal. One morning, Elsa was nearly 6 months pregnant. Her belly a gentle curve that Andrew softly kissed each night. She woke up early, determined to sort out the nursery. Tucked away in an old cardboard box labeled "baby stuff," she found a list of names she had jotted down over the years: Lily Olivia, Samuel Joseph. Each name had meaning, a tiny reflection of the future she had dreamed of. That very evening, Andrew returned from a work dinner face taut. He approached Elsa cautiously. "Elle, we need to talk." Alarm bells rang in her head. "What is it?" He took a moment, meeting her gaze. "I promised Clarissa I'd help her find a new position at Harwell's London branch." The name Clarissa felt like a punch to Elsa's stomach. "Why are you still making promises to your mistress?" The bitterness in her voice came out sharper than broken glass. Andrew frowned. "She threatened to expose everything, potentially even twist the story to harm my career. I had to keep her appeased." Elsa felt her baby kick as though reacting to the tension. She placed a hand over her belly, silently urging calm. "Is that all?" "No," Andrew admitted, voice faltering. We talked about the baby. She asked what names we were considering, and I..." He paused, guilt flickering in his eyes. "She suggested Isabella for a girl, or Leonardo if it's a boy." Elsa's breath caught. Her mind whirled, struggling to process the enormous betrayal. Not only was Clarissa still in the picture, but Andrew had let his mistress weigh in on the baby's name, a name that was supposed to be decided by her and Andrew, alone out of love. The air felt suffocating. Elsa turned away. "Get out, Andrew," she said, her voice dangerously quiet. "You have no idea how many lines you've crossed." He tried to reach for her hand, but she snatched it away. A storm raged inside her, heartbreak, rage, helplessness. In the corner of the room, the list of baby names she had lovingly prepared lay crumpled and forgotten. The following weeks turned into a test of Elsa's resilience. Her prenatal appointments continued, her belly growing more prominent with each passing day. Yet emotionally, she felt hollowed out. Andrew had moved into the guest bedroom, though the tension between them was as thick as the August heat that seeped through the windows. She confided in Linda, who urged her to consult a lawyer, at least to understand her options if things came to a divorce. Elsa resisted at first. Her heart stubbornly clung to the idea of a unified family. But the night she overheard Andrew taking a call from Clarissa in hushed tones, she broke. The next morning, she visited Redwood & Associates, a reputable law firm recommended by a colleague. Walking through the polished marble foyer, Elsa felt like she was stepping into an alternate universe. Suits rushed about with urgent phone calls, and the air buzzed with quiet tension. In a modest conference room, she met James Redwood himself, a tall man with graying hair and kind eyes. She explained her situation in trembling words, feeling vulnerable and ashamed. James listened attentively, occasionally jotting down notes. "I've handled many cases like this," he said gently. "My job is to protect you and your child, no matter what you decide." He outlined the basics: property division, alimony, child support. The mention of a will came up organically. "Have you and Andrew discussed your estate planning?" James asked. "With a child on the way, it's often a good idea to revisit your will." Elsa hesitated. Many years ago, she and Andrew had drafted wills naming each other as beneficiaries, never imagining they might need to exclude one another. Yet now the thought festered. If Andrew was still entangled with Clarissa, could that woman someday benefit from Elsa's own assets, or, God forbid, have an influence over her child's inheritance? She left the law firm with a stack of paperwork, her mind spinning. The baby kicked, as if urging her to do something, to protect them both. Elsa gently rested her hand on her belly and whispered, "I will keep you safe." Despite the rocky marriage, Linda insisted on throwing a baby shower for Elsa. "It'll be good for you," she promised. "A chance to celebrate this baby. You need some joy, Elle." Elsa reluctantly agreed. The baby shower took place at Linda's suburban home, decorated with pastel balloons, pink and blue streamers, and a table overflowing with gifts. Outside, a warm breeze drifted through the trees, bringing the scent of freshly mowed grass. Friends and family arrived, placing thoughtful presents on a long table. Elsa tried her best to smile, tried to absorb the love and positivity swirling around her. Yet she couldn't help noticing Andrew moving from group to group, looking restless. He was never quite at ease these days, especially when the conversation inevitably turned to the baby. At one point, Linda began a party game where each guest suggested a baby name and pinned it to a board. Shouts of Emma, Noah, Sophia, and Ethan filled the room. Elsa felt a pang every time she heard a name. She forced a smile, watching Andrew shift his weight uncomfortably in the corner. Was he thinking of Clarissa's suggestions? As the game wound down, Andrew took the microphone Linda handed him, preparing to make a small speech. Elsa saw the anxious glint in his eyes. "First off, I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate our baby," Andrew began. "Elsa and I are so grateful for all the love and support. We're going through a tough time right now. But this baby is our light." He paused. "We've been discussing names and we've come up with a few ideas." Elsa's heart hammered. They had never come up with anything, unless Andrew meant Clarissa's suggestions. She stared at him silently, praying he would not utter them in front of all their friends. Andrew cleared his throat, glancing at her. "We're not quite sure yet," he corrected. "But we promise you'll all be the first to know when we decide." Relief coursed through Elsa's veins, yet something about his hesitation bothered her. She nodded stiffly as applause broke out. The baby shower concluded on a relatively peaceful note, guests scattering as the sun set. Linda wrapped Elsa in a hug. "You are strong, Elle," she said softly. "You'll get through this. I'm here." Tears gathered in Elsa's eyes. She looked at Andrew loading gifts into the car, a figure who once was her entire world. She whispered back, "I hope so." Shortly after the baby shower, Andrew announced he'd be traveling again, for one last business trip. Elsa bristled, suspecting Clarissa might be involved, but she kept her thoughts to herself. Her focus remained on safeguarding her unborn child, physically and legally. While Andrew was away, Elsa visited Redwood and Associates again. This time, she asked James Redwood more specifically about changing her will. She wanted to name her sister, Maggie Johnson, as the child's guardian in the event of Elsa's passing. She also insisted that Andrew receive only a minimal share of her estate, ensuring the bulk went into a trust for her baby. James Redwood arched an eyebrow. "This is a significant shift from your existing arrangement," he noted. "Are you sure?" Elsa inhaled slowly, pressing a hand to her round belly. "Yes, I'm sure." The next morning, she woke up to an urgent text from Linda. "You need to see the news." Elsa turned on the TV, heart pounding. The local station aired a story about a leaked set of text messages and photos from Harwell Pharmaceuticals implicating Andrew Greenwood in an affair with a co-worker, Clarissa Henderson. Elsa's phone buzzed incessantly. Friends, co-workers, even distant relatives who suddenly remembered her number. Her gaze lingered on a photo of Andrew and Clarissa entwined on a hotel balcony. The anchor's solemn voice declared that the scandal might jeopardize an upcoming merger for Harwell. Their intimate business just got thrown into the public spotlight. Elsa's phone rang, Andrew calling from wherever he was. She let it ring, ignoring the frenzied pounding in her chest. If he needed her, he should have considered that before playing with fire. Andrew returned 3 days later, disheveled, desperate. He found Elsa in the nursery, quietly folding baby clothes into a small dresser. "Elsa," he said, voice raw, "we have to talk." She continued folding. "Is this about your media scandal or Clarissa Henderson's ultimatum?" He slumped against the doorframe, pinching the bridge of his nose. "She's threatening to sue Harwell for harassment if the company doesn't pay her a severance package. Her claims are exaggerated. She's painting me as if I coerced her into the relationship. My boss is furious. They might fire me if I can't contain the fallout." Elsa remained stoic, her heart racing. She felt strangely numb. "What does that have to do with me?" He looked at her, tears forming in his eyes. "Harwell's lawyers told me to resolve this quietly. They want me to settle with her out of court. They're prepared to pay a large sum, but they expect me to take care of Clarissa personally too. She's making demands." Elsa's spine stiffened. "Demands like picking our baby's name." Again. Andrew's eyes flicked downward. She's fixated on the idea. She's resentful that we're having a baby at all. It's twisted. But if I can't calm her down, I lose my job. A long silence stretched between them, broken only by the faint hum of the baby's new nightlight. Elsa's mind whirred. She felt the baby move within her, a gentle reminder of innocence amid the chaos. "I have no words for how disgusting this is." "Andrew," she finally said, "you made this mess. You'd better find a way out that doesn't involve sacrificing our child to your mistress's whims." He hung his head, appearing older, wearier than Elsa had ever seen him. "I'm so sorry, Elle," he whispered. She looked at him, tears filling her own eyes. "You broke my heart. You involved our baby in your lies. I'm sorry too. Sorry I ever believed we could fix this." Days crept by, overshadowed by gossip, legal meetings, and Andrew's frantic attempts to salvage his career. Elsa's belly felt heavier each day, not just from the baby, but from the burden of stress and heartbreak. Determined to protect her child, Elsa pressed forward with revising her will. She followed James Redwood's instructions, meticulously reviewing each clause with unwavering resolve. She made sure her sister Maggie Johnson was the primary guardian, and that any inheritance Andrew might receive would be stringently limited subject to oversight by a court-appointed trustee who would protect the baby's interests if anything happened to Elsa. On a brisk Tuesday afternoon, she signed the finalized will. As her pen lifted from the paper, a strange calm settled over her, as though she had finally reclaimed a piece of her autonomy. She had no intention of dying, of course, but ensuring that Clarissa's manipulations wouldn't touch her child felt like a victory. That evening, Andrew noticed a packet of legal documents on the kitchen counter. "What's this?" he asked quietly. Elsa snatched the papers, pressing them against her chest. "None of your concern," he frowned. "Is that your will? Are you cutting me out?" She glared at him. "You gave the mother of your child every reason to doubt you. I'm looking out for our baby Andrew. You should be grateful I'm even allowing you any share." Andrew's face crumpled with guilt. "Elle, please. I can't lose everything." Elsa closed her eyes, tears threatening to overflow. "You already lost me," she said gently. "The only thing left for you to do is prove you're worthy of being our baby's father. Life, it seems, has impeccable timing. Just as Andrew's scandal at work reached a fever pitch, Elsa went into early labor 4 weeks ahead of schedule. It was midnight when the contractions started. Pain rippled through her abdomen like rolling thunder. She fumbled for her phone, calling Linda, who rushed over to drive her to the hospital. The baby wasn't due for another month. Fear gripped Elsa. Andrew was at an emergency corporate meeting he had left that afternoon, promising to finalize the Clarissa settlement by the next day. Elsa tried calling his cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. She texted him, "In labor. Come to the hospital." She received no reply. At St. Mary's maternity wing, Linda helped Elsa to the reception desk, her face tense with worry. Within minutes, nurses wheeled Elsa into a birthing suite. Dr. Harriet Liu arrived shortly after, swapping her coat for scrubs. "We'll take good care of you," the doctor reassured Elsa. "Let's see how far along you are." The contractions came in waves, each one more punishing than the last. Fear, pain, and heartbreak mingled as Elsa struggled to breathe through her sobs. The nurse placed an IV in her arm, hooking her up to monitors that tracked the baby's heartbeat, a steady lub-dub, like a candle in a gale. Hours later, exhaustion enveloped Elsa. She drifted in and out of delirium. All she could think about was whether Andrew would show up. Would he hold her hand, or had their marriage become so fractured that he'd miss the birth of their child? Just when Elsa thought she couldn't endure another contraction, Andrew burst through the door. Drenched in sweat tie-askew, he looked terrified. "Elsa." "I'm here," he panted, rushing to her side. "I'm sorry it took so long." She locked eyes with him, a tear sliding down her cheek. She wanted to scream at him for being late, for letting their marriage go to pieces. But another contraction seized her, and she cried out. In that moment, none of their drama mattered as much as bringing this baby safely into the world. The last few minutes of labor were a blur of agony, shouts, and urgent commands from Dr. Liu. When it was finally over, a shrill, piercing cry filled the room. Elsa felt an overwhelming rush of relief, love, and protectiveness. The baby, a girl, emerged from the chaos, eyes squeezed shut, lungs announcing her arrival to the world. Andrew hovered nearby, tears streaming down his face as he looked at their daughter. The nurses placed the tiny infant on Elsa's chest. Elsa stared at her daughter in awe, counting 10 little fingers, 10 little toes. The baby's eyes blinked open for a moment, revealing murky blue newborn irises. "She's perfect," Elsa whispered, voice cracking with emotion. Andrew gently touched the baby's head. "She looks just like you." He breathed. Time seemed to stand still. For that fragile moment, Elsa forgot. Clarissa forgot the heartbreak and let the rush of motherhood wash over her. She loved this baby, more than she had ever loved anything in her life. But reality seeped back in quickly. A nurse asked, "Have you chosen a name for the birth certificate?" Elsa's eyes locked onto Andrew's, remembering the horrifying notion that his mistress had suggested the baby's name. Andrew cleared his throat. "Elsa, you choose," he said, voice trembling. "It's your call." Elsa paused, pressing her lips together. Part of her wanted to use a name Clarissa would detest out of spite. But she banished that petty impulse. She looked at her baby's face so innocent. The name needed to be one filled with hope, not revenge. In a tear-laced whisper, she said, "Clara. I want to name her Clara Grace Greenwood." Andrew nodded, tears still shining in his eyes. "Clara," he echoed. "That's beautiful." Elsa rested her forehead gently against her daughter's tiny head, silently thanking God that Clarissa Henderson had no say in this precious life. Over the next day, Elsa rested in the hospital, recovering from the delivery. The baby Clara rested in a bassinet by her bedside, occasionally fussing for a feeding or diaper change. Andrew stayed in a chair, drifting in and out of sleep, tormented by the guilt that had become his constant companion. On the second day, Linda brought flowers, balloons, and a teddy bear. She joked about how Clara had the entire hospital staff wrapped around her little finger. Then Linda's face turned somber. "Elle, you should see this," she whispered, handing her phone to Elsa. An article on a local gossip website displayed the headline, "Corporate Scandal Deepens Mistress Claims Naming Rights Over Top Executive's Child." Clarissa Henderson had given an exclusive interview airing dirty laundry about Andrew's affair. She alleged that Andrew had promised she could name the baby if she didn't speak to the press. Elsa's stomach churned. She bit her lip to hold back tears. Andrew read over her shoulder, his face contorting. "I never... God, she's twisted everything. This is blackmail." Just then, Elsa's phone dinged with an email notification. It was from Clarissa Henderson herself. A vile, mocking message. "I hope you enjoy your new motherhood. Don't forget who nearly named your precious baby. Andrew won't escape me that easily." Attached was a copy of the settlement they'd been negotiating. Clarissa had apparently decided to go scorched earth, revealing everything in a public spectacle. Elsa felt a wave of anger so strong it threatened to knock her back. Clara whimpered, and Elsa gently rocked her bassinet, forcing herself to stay calm. Andrew sat at the edge of the bed, burying his face in his hands. "I'm so sorry, Elle." She stared at him. "You gave her this power, Andrew. I hope you remember that every day." Released from the hospital, Elsa brought Clara home, cradling her protectively. While Andrew hauled the car seat and diaper bag, Elsa stepped into their house, feeling a mixture of relief and dread. The nursery looked as serene as ever, with soft pastel walls and plush animals lining the shelves. But the tension in the house was palpable. Andrew tried to busy himself making tea, tidying up. Elsa fed Clara, marveling at her tiny features. For a few days they lived in a kind of fragile truce. Andrew handled midnight feedings, rocked Clara to sleep, and tried to shield Elsa from further stress. He rarely spoke of the legal fiasco or Clarissa, but Elsa knew it was boiling beneath the surface. Late one night, Andrew's phone buzzed. He had left it on the kitchen counter. Elsa pacing the living room with a fussy. Clara couldn't help but glance at the screen. Another message from Clarissa. "We're not done. You owe me." Elsa's heart thudded against her ribs, revulsion curling in her stomach. How much longer would this woman torment them? Clara wailed, reminding Elsa that her child depended on her. She scooped the baby into her arms, kissing her soft forehead. "It's okay, sweetheart," she murmured. "Mummy's here." She had changed her will to protect Clara's future. Legally, at least she felt safer. But emotionally, the threat of Clarissa felt like a venom that refused to dissipate. One afternoon, as Elsa napped upstairs with Clara, Andrew snooped around the study, searching for financial documents that might help him finalize the settlement with Clarissa. He stumbled upon a folder labeled Estate Plan, updated half-hidden under a stack of magazines. Curiosity ignited, and he opened it. Inside, he found a copy of Elsa's newly revised will. His eyes raked over the clauses, each one more devastating than the last. Primary guardian for Clara in the event of Elsa's death. Maggie Johnson. Financial trust for Clara. Andrew Greenwood, barred from accessing funds without explicit court approval. Distribution of Elsa's assets. Minimal spousal inheritance to Andrew, with conditions that effectively limited his control. His throat went dry. He had never felt more estranged from his wife, the woman he once adored. Frantic footsteps pounded upstairs. Elsa appeared, hair disheveled from sleep, Clara in her arms. She immediately saw the open folder. "Were you snooping?" she demanded, voice trembling with anger. Andrew clutched the file. "I just wanted to get the financial documents I need for Clarissa's settlement. I found this by accident." Elsa's cheeks flamed. "You had no right. I had every right." Andrew cut in, surprising them both with the hardness in his tone. "I'm your husband, the father of this child. Yet you plan to cut me out of our daughter's life if anything happens to you. Are you punishing me for my mistakes?" Her eyes sparked with fury. "My mistakes? You nearly gave our baby's name to your mistress. You gave that woman power in our marriage. And you're calling me unfair?" Clara began to cry, unsettled by the raised voices. Elsa rocked her gently, tears gathering in her own eyes. Andrew exhaled shakily. I can't lose you both. I know I messed up, but please give me a chance to make it right." She blinked away tears, exhaustion etched into her features. "I've given you every chance already. The next steps are yours to figure out." Andrew's job hung in the balance. Clarissa's demands growing more unreasonable by the day. When Harwell Pharmaceuticals threatened to terminate Andrew unless he resolved the scandal, he felt his world crumbling. One crisp morning, he suited up and left for a meeting with Clarissa at Redwood & Associates' neutral ground, with both of their lawyers present. Elsa stayed home with Clara, her anxiety spiking. She remembered how Andrew had insisted he was going to fix everything. But could she trust him? Hours later, Andrew trudged through the front door looking pale as a ghost. Elsa rushed to him, heart pounding. "What happened?" He sank into a chair, loosening his tie. "It's done," Clarissa settled. "I'll keep my job, but there's a heavy financial blow. Our savings will take a hit." He paused, swallowing hard. She demanded an apology in writing. She demanded that I publicly acknowledge our relationship as consensual so she couldn't be accused of blackmail. Elsa frowned. You signed that. Andrew shrugged, eyes hollow. My hands were tied. It was sign or lose everything. We can move on now, though. Elsa's gaze flicked to Clara, sleeping peacefully in her bassinet. Moving on won't be easy. He nodded regret, thick in his expression. I'd do anything to erase what I did. She looked at him for a long moment, uncertain how to respond. The hush in the house felt deafening, broken only by Clara's soft breathing. Perhaps the final chapter of Clarissa's interference had just been written, but the damage left behind was immeasurable. In the weeks that followed, Andrew poured his energies into fatherhood. He woke for late-night feedings, changed diapers, and rocked Clara while softly singing lullabies. Elsa watched his transformation with cautious hope. He even agreed to couples therapy despite his initial reluctance. Their counselor, Dr. Beatrice Holmes, ran a tight ship. During sessions, she delved into the depths of their emotional scars. Elsa recounted how betrayed she felt when Andrew allowed Clarissa to choose the baby's name. Andrew broke down, admitting his weakness and fear of losing the mistress's silence. Dr. Holmes posed tough questions about intimacy, trust, and the future. Many sessions ended in tears, yet slowly cracks of light began to appear through the darkness. Andrew recognized that his fling had been less about love and more about ego and boredom. Elsa grappled with the realization that she had put Andrew on a pedestal, ignoring the faults that grew like cracks in a dam. Sometimes, after therapy, Andrew cooked dinner while Elsa rested. They managed small conversations without erupting into shouting matches. The will remained a sensitive topic, but Elsa held her ground. Andrew never asked her to change it. Perhaps he realized she had good reason to protect Clara's interests. One evening, Andrew tentatively approached Elsa in the nursery. She was nursing Clara, who was nearly 3 months old now, with soft brown hair that curled at the ends. She's beautiful, he said, voice thick with emotion. Elsa nodded, pressing her lips to Clara's forehead. Yes, she is. Andrew lingered, picking at the thread of his shirt. I'm not sure how to say this, but thank you for naming her Clara. I know you could have done something spiteful, but you didn't. You chose a lovely name. A wistful smile touched Elsa's lips. She's innocent. She deserves a name born of love. He inhaled slowly. I know it might be too late for me, but I love you, Elsa. I want us to be a real family. She sighed, tears glistening. I'm not sure if it's too late, Andrew. I'm too tired to know. But I do know we have a child together, and we'll do our best by her, no matter what happens between us. Time marched on with the unstoppable force of daily life. Clara turned 6 months, then 9. Each milestone, her first laugh, her first attempt at crawling, brought Elsa and Andrew together in fleeting moments of shared wonder. Their therapy continued, though progress was slow. Trust once broken never returns in an instant. But Andrew was determined to prove himself. He closed off all contact with Clarissa, refused any new travel unless absolutely necessary, and even took a step back at work to focus on family. He also paid back the settlement money from his bonus, ensuring that they weren't strapped for household finances. During Clara's first birthday, a small party in their backyard, Elsa spotted Andrew in the midst of children's laughter balloons and a little sash cake for Clara. He wore a carefree smile she hadn't seen in ages. That night, after everyone left, he and Elsa cleaned up together. By the time the yard was tidy, The sun had set, and Clara was fast asleep. Elsa turned to Andrew. "You've been different." "In a good way," she said softly. He blinked, hope stirring in his eyes. "I'm trying, because you and Clara are worth every effort." She weighed her words carefully. "I haven't changed my will back. I need you to understand. It's not about revenge. It's about security." He placed a hand over hers, warmth radiating from his touch. "I understand," he said quietly. "And I'll keep working until you trust me enough to change it, if you ever do." She looked at him, finally allowing herself a moment of vulnerability. "That might take a long time," she whispered. Andrew nodded, tears brimming. "I'll wait." Months after Clarissa's settlement, the Greenwood household had found a shaky new normal. Andrew took on more fatherly duties. Elsa maintained part-time work from home, balancing projects with caring for Clara. Life felt stable. Then one chilly autumn morning, an envelope arrived, no return address. Elsa opened it cautiously. Andrew and Elsa. "You might believe your life is perfect now, but secrets have a way of re-emerging. Andrew. You owe me more than a settlement. Don't get too comfortable." See. Elsa's blood ran cold. She handed the note to Andrew. His face whitened. "What is she trying to do?" "We have a legal settlement. She can't come after me again." Elsa pressed her lips together. "She can still torment us psychologically, apparently." They reached out to James Redwood for advice. He assured them that legally Clarissa had no grounds to demand anything further. Yet the letter's threat loomed over them like a dark cloud. Would Clarissa continue to haunt their marriage? Or was this her final hiss before disappearing for good? That night, as Clara slept soundly, Elsa found Andrew sitting in the living room staring blankly at the TV. She sank onto the couch beside him. "We can't live in fear," she murmured. He exhaled slowly. "I'll never forgive myself if she hurts you or Clara. But I think this is just another attempt at manipulation. She has no real hold over us now." Elsa nodded, leaning her head against Andrew's shoulder for the first time in what felt like forever. They sat like that for a long time, silent, but not alone. While Clarissa's letter rattled them, it also acted as a catalyst. Andrew and Elsa talked more openly than ever about how they ended up in such a mess, how isolation and unspoken resentments became the breeding ground for infidelity. Therapy sessions with Dr. Holmes grew more intense, yet also more fruitful. Elsa, meanwhile, blossomed in her role as a mother. Clara turned into a bright, giggling toddler with an inquisitive mind. Every time Elsa heard her daughter's laughter, she felt a surge of gratitude for the choice she made at the hospital to name her child. From the heart, not from vengeance or outside interference. Bit by bit, Elsa found herself acknowledging Andrew's sincere effort. She noticed how he never flinched when she brought up the subject of the affair, or how he no longer shielded his phone. For a while she tested him unintentionally, glancing at his screen or phone logs. He never protested, never hid anything. Trust began to germinate in the fertile ground of honesty. One evening after Clara was in bed, Andrew emerged from the study with a small envelope, cheeks flushed with nerves. He handed it to Elsa. Inside was a note describing his intentions to place additional funds into Clara's trust unasked. He wrote, "I can't erase the past, but I can invest in our future. This is my way of showing you I'm serious about being a father you and Clara can rely on. Andrew." Tears welled in Elsa's eyes. She saw genuine remorse, an active attempt to heal what had once been hopelessly shattered. By the time Clara turned 2, the Greenwood home had grown quieter, more stable. The constant dread that once lingered like soak in the walls had thinned. Arguments were rare, replaced by careful conversations and small gestures of healing. Elsa no longer walked on eggshells, and Andrew no longer seemed like a man hiding in plain sight. It was Elsa who suggested they visit James Redwood's office again. This time she didn't come alone or in secret. Andrew walked beside her, holding Clara's hand, as they entered the same firm where Elsa had once rewritten her will out of fury and heartbreak. But today wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity, protection, and yes, maybe a small step toward rebuilding something that resembled a partnership. James Redwood greeted them with a warm smile and firm handshake. "Back again, Mrs. Greenwood," he said, nodding. "Or should I say, Mr. and Mrs. Greenwood?" Elsa smiled faintly. "We're still writing our ending," she replied. They sat in the familiar glass-walled office sunlight, pouring in over the leather-bound law books and dark oak furniture. Clara played on the carpet with a small stuffed giraffe, oblivious to the heavy conversation unfolding above her. James reviewed the proposed amendments to Elsa's will. In the new version, Andrew would no longer be entirely excluded. In the event of Elsa's untimely death, Andrew would share partial guardianship of Clara, but Maggie Johnson, Elsa's steadfast sister, would still hold primary oversight. The trust fund remained ironclad, impenetrable to anyone's ambition or mistake. Clara's future was untouchable. When the final signatures were made, James carefully slid the documents into a fireproof cabinet. Andrew turned to Elsa, his eyes softer than she'd seen in years. "Thank you," he said, voice low, "not just for changing the will, but for letting me show you I can be better." Elsa stared at him for a long moment, before glancing toward the corner of the office where a potted fern basked in the sunlight. It was the same plant she'd noticed 2 years ago, quietly thriving in its modest ceramic pot. It hadn't withered. It hadn't demanded attention. It had simply endured, growing leaf by leaf. "We're not perfect," Elsa said softly, "but maybe we don't need to be. Maybe what we need is just the will to keep growing." Andrew reached for her hand. She let him hold it this time, her grip tentative but real. The scar of betrayal would never fully vanish. It would always be part of their story. But with each day of effort, with each coup from Clara, each sunrise shared over quiet coffee, Elsa felt something unexpected. Not just forgiveness, but renewal. They left the office not as the couple who had once dreamed under a willow tree, nor as the fractured pair who had battled over trust and betrayal. They left as two people who chose again and again to show up for their daughter, and maybe in time for each other. The rain tapped gently against the living room windows, a soft rhythm that seemed to echo the stillness inside. Clara, now a bubbly toddler with a halo of unruly brown curls, toddled through the house with a photo album clutched in her tiny hands. She'd recently discovered her baby pictures and squealed with delight every time she saw her own face, wide-eyed, gummy-smiled, wrapped in pastel blankets. Elsa lounged on the couch, sipping tea, as Clara climbed into her lap, still flipping pages. Andrew joined them a moment later, with a bowl of apple slices, setting it down, before settling on the other side of the couch. It had been over 3 years since the worst storm of their lives, and the Greenwood household, once fractured by betrayal, had begun to resemble something almost sacred. It wasn't perfect. The shadows of the past lingered, but so did the light of forgiveness. I was thinking. Elsa began, watching Clara point to a picture of her newborn self with a gurgling giggle. Maybe we could do a new family portrait. A real one this time. Andrew looked up, surprised. You mean all three of us? She nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. The portraits we took before Clara was born. They feel like someone else's memories now. We've lived through too much. It's time we captured who we are now, not who we were pretending to be. Andrew swallowed hard. I'd like that, he said, reaching over to brush a curl from Clara's forehead. We're not the same people. Maybe that's a good thing. Elsa looked at him, this man who had once broken her in ways she never thought she'd recover from, and yet here he was. He had stayed, not just physically but emotionally. He had rebuilt himself into someone more aware, more humble, more father than he'd ever been, husband. And she had changed too. Gone was the woman who had lived quietly in someone else's shadow, trusting blindly. In her place stood a mother with a steel backbone who had rewritten her will not out of bitterness, but out of love for her child, who had dared to hope again, not for fairy tales, but for quiet, hard-earned joy. That evening, as the rain turned to a fine mist, Elsa stepped outside with Clara wrapped in a soft blanket. She looked up at the sky, grey but peaceful. Life wasn't about avoiding storms. It was about learning how to dance in the drizzle and find warmth after the cold. Andrew came out moments later and wrapped his arm around them. Clara, sleepy now, nestled her head into Elsa's shoulder. Whatever happens next, Elsa murmured, we choose it together. Andrew nodded. Together. There would always be whispers from the past. But the future, that was still unwritten. And for the first time, in a long time, Elsa was ready to pick up the pen again. Betrayal, heartbreak, and redemption. Elsa Greenwood's journey was a tumultuous testament to the power of resilience. When Andrew's affair threatened to tear their marriage apart, Elsa's fury drove her to rewrite her will, cutting him off from the life they once built together. Yet the birth of their daughter Clara planted new seeds of hope. Through therapy, forgiveness, and unwavering commitment to their child's well-being, they discovered that some relationships, though scarred, can still heal. Today, Elsa and Andrew navigate life one small step at a time, cherishing the miracle they created together. Their story reminds us that even in the darkest moments, love can endure if we choose to nurture it. If you enjoyed this dramatic tale of betrayal, intrigue, and ultimate redemption, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating real-life stories. Your support helps us bring you more deep dives into the hidden corners of human emotion and resilience. Thank you for watching.